This is 22-year-old Kitty Grew, a project management apprentice from London. She has general anxiety disorder, or GAD, a disorder which leaves the sufferer feeling in a constant state of high anxiety and vulnerable to severe panic attacks.
A panic attack is your body saying, you're in danger, get out. And so your body is reacting to that. So your whole body is sort of dragging you towards the exit, like you need to get out now, you need to get out. So your heart starts thumping, you have adrenaline, it starts to shut down your other systems just to focus on getting away. So you start to feel sick because your digestion system just shuts down and your thought process is shut down because your body thinks you're in danger, so it's telling you to run away, just get away. And so if you imagine having that sort of feeling, but logically you know you have to stay in the situation, it's really hard because your body is completely fighting what your mind is telling you.
Physically what Kitty would be experiencing are essentially the sort of typical flight or fight reactions that you or I would experience if we were caught short crossing the road and hadn't noticed a car coming. And we wouldn't think twice the fact that our heart was pounding away and we were feeling fearful and sweaty and so on. But for people who experience a panic attack, these sorts of symptoms can seemingly come out of the blue. And people typically cope with those by avoidance and leaving the situation.
Well, hiya, Kitty.
Hello.
What are you up to?
Trying to learn how to do a shoelace.
Really?
Yeah, I'm starting with these ones first.
Kitty thinks she has had GAD from as young as 3.
So when I was in nursery or playgroup when you first start, I would always cry when my parents left me and I'd be very anxious for most of the day until they came back. But I think people didn't really pay attention to it then because that's just quite a regular thing to happen at that age. Quite a few people cry. But I think my parents started to take notice when it came to year 1, year 2 and I was still getting really distressed when they left me. So at that age there wasn't much they can do apart from just send me to therapy. But because again I was quite young and they were trying to do cognitive behavioural therapy, I just wasn't as engaged. And so it didn't really help that much.
Did you find, especially at school, that people didn't know how to react to your anxiety?
Yeah, I think my anxiety was a lot worse in secondary school specifically because nobody understood what it was. So in one sense, that's just really alienating because nobody knew what I was feeling. If I tried to explain it, nobody could really understand. And so I felt very cut off from everybody else.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get you lie on your tummy. Yeah. I'll use the machine. On your tummy.
54-year-old chiropractor Anne suffered from depression after a really difficult breakup.
I was living with someone who I'd been in a relationship with for a few years, but the relationship started to deteriorate to the point that I decided that I had to end it really. But the process of ending it was very difficult with a lot of uncertainty and changing of minds and so on, which was very stressful. The pressure of that just became gradually more and more apparent really in the way I felt. And I was finding myself really struggling to just cope with everyday tasks. I was waking up in the morning dreading the day ahead and sometimes finding I just couldn't cope with the prospect of a day full of dealing with patients.
People with depression will often lose their confidence, their self-esteem may be so affected, and on top of the fatigue, this can often translate to them struggling to do everyday activities, things such as keeping their home clean, but also, even in extreme cases, self-care.
In 2010, Kitty found out that one of her family's closest friends had died, which made her GAD a lot more difficult to handle.
It just tore my family apart basically. My mum started drinking loads in the day, not eating, and her and my dad split up, and this all kind of happened over a summer. And so there are all these changes happening at once, and I think a really main thing for anxiety, at least mine, is change can trigger loads of anxiety. So I became agoraphobic, which basically means you're scared of going out of the house or your safety zone. I started to get to a point where I really couldn't leave my house. I would start to have panic attacks in one place and I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to go back there because that's where I have panic attacks. But my world became so small because I was having a panic attack closer and closer to home, and eventually I just got stuck in the house. So I started to try and challenge myself to go further and further. There was one point where I tried to walk to the shop, which is really, really close. I mean, like 4-minute walk. And I just got to the end of my road and I just couldn't go any further because the panic attack was just like overwhelming and I just had to turn back. So that was probably one of the worst points where I just couldn't leave my house at all. So I decided to try and aim to get to Shoreditch, which again, it's not even far, maybe 20 minutes on the bus. So I decided the first day I would go to one place, and as soon as I started to feel anxious, I would get off the bus and go home. And the next day I would go a stop further and so on until I got there. So I did it, and I did find it quite difficult to push myself each time, but I did. And from there, I think that's when my anxiety started to improve.
Anne has now recovered from her depression, but says there is still a negative stigma surrounding mental health issues.
Society seems to shun anything that it doesn't understand, I suppose. And I think because we've been so badly educated or poorly educated about mental health, really, this stigma has developed, which people, just are judging other people.
I don't really know why people find it embarrassing. I guess because it's seen as a weakness to be mentally ill. In society and stuff, that's how it's been brought around. And again, because there's not education around it. So people aren't educated about what it is. And when people aren't educated about stuff, they just kind of shut it down and they're not very open to it.
Often people in the early stages of psychological distress fear being judged by other people. They anticipate being judged by other people. They overestimate other people's reactions as slights towards them and withdraw. So for us, if we want to support people, we should reach out to them.
Although other people can help, Kitty says the power to overcome a mental health issue lies in every single one of us.
I remember feeling really bad. If anybody out there feels bad, I remember thinking, I'm never going to leave my house. I'm never going to be able to get through this. And at the time you truly, truly believe it. But with all the help I've had along the way, the main thing that made the change was me. And I think people don't give themselves credit for coming out of these situations. I think people get embarrassed for having mental health issues, and when they get over it, they just want to shut it away and hide it and forget that it ever happened. But that's not a thing to do. It should be celebrated how far people can come, because the power for real change is within you, and everybody has that, no matter who you are.